Bo knows. Well, if you remember the brand and the commercials, you fill in the blank from there because there's about 50 different directions you can go. And the latest version belongs to Ohio State. So we will talk some Bo Jackson and then look ahead to other recruiting targets and how the recruiting process is going for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes here on Ohio State Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. Pull up a chair for the next 60 or so while we talk Buckeyes football. And of course, it's recruiting season. Tony Gerdeman's right next to me. BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can catch his work right there. And of course, the Buckeye Weekly podcast. That is a must. Steve Hellwagon taking a few minutes away from vacay to join us here on Buckeyes Live. And that's good of Steve to do. And of course, his work is at Bucknuts 247 Sports. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Steve, vacation going well?
So far, so good. We are going to be here till maybe Sunday morning and then head back to Ohio after that. It was a long trip, and I'm coming off really red for some reason. I don't know why, but other than I was out in the sun down here a couple days. But yeah, I did use sunscreen, but I'm coming off very much red, it looks like. But so my daughter's doing an internship in Washington, D.C., and we drove there, dropped her off, and she is working with the Corn Refiners Association, and her office is 2 blocks from the White House, which is kind of cool. So she is right in the heart of everything there on Pennsylvania Avenue and wherever she's at there. And then we hopped in the car from there, went to Richmond, Virginia, stayed overnight, and then it was like 7 hours from there to Hilton Head. So been down here all week with my wife's family and just enjoying the time here. Got to play golf twice so far, and going to lunch here in a little bit. Going to have some seafood for lunch, I'm sure, at one of our favorite places, the Skull Creek Boathouse on the north side of the island. And life has been good to me so far this week, so can't argue. And excited to get back up to Columbus. I missed the 2 one-day camps this week, but looks like between the 2 camps, they offered like 18 new players or something out of the 2 days or something ridiculous. So you get a scholarship offer, and you get a scholarship offer, and you get a scholarship offer. So we'll see how that all comes out on the back end. But yeah, it's been a good week and desperately needed. Hadn't had a vacation since February of 2023. And, feeling a little bit better about life, I guess, at this point.
Well, I got to say, I left 5 weeks of vacation behind at my previous job. And now that I've taken this on, it's difficult to find time. So last week was really the first time I ever said, okay, I'm not doing anything. My daughter's in town. It was almost like kind of a vacation destination spot for her. So we treated it as such. And I did work in some emails and that sort of thing, but pretty much shut it down for 5 days for the first time since I took this on in 2020 full time. So I enjoy that. And yeah, it's been about 25 years since I was in that part of the country, Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, doing that with the kids. So that's a good time.
Yeah, Hilton Head's crazy. I mean, it's been all built up, and it's very. I guess this week is kind of a sandwich week in between the Memorial Day week and next week, which is quote unquote the unofficial beginning of the summer vacation season. I think this is a week that is not that heavily traveled. So maybe next week is when, and for the next 6 or 8 weeks after that, is when things get kind of hectic, I guess.
Well, Tony, we're talking to a lot of people right now out there that despite getting to know us for the last 6 years, care a whole lot less about us than they do about a bunch of 17-year-old football players. So what is the latest in regards to leans and targets and what's going on?
Well, yesterday was the last 2 days have been pretty interesting. I don't know all of the names that were offered because there were so many, and they just, it's kind of rapid fire. You get done with the camp, you get done with talking to the players, and you go and start to you grab lunch or whatever, or you go start working, and then you see all of these tweets from players about getting offered. I know we talked to a couple players after being offered, one being Jameer Brown, who's the first 2027 Ohio kid to get an offer. He's a receiver out of Huber Heights, Wayne, which has sent guys like Marcus Freeman and Braxton Miller to Ohio State. But a guy that is like 6 foot, 170 ish, something like that. And to be offered this early as a true freshman, or as just coming off of a freshman year as an Ohio kid by Brian Hartline is pretty telling, and holds the national record for the 60-meter for freshmen. So a speedy guy. Talked to him afterwards about growing up an Ohio State fan, but also having a draw to Notre Dame because of Marcus Freeman. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. But just it's the covering these camps, and Steve can tell you as well. Like, there's so much going on, and you're trying to find stuff to watch that you're watching, because you don't necessarily know all of the names, and you'll have to figure out, okay, who is that guy? Who is that guy? Some guys you just look at, okay, that is somebody. And that was Jakeem Stewart yesterday, the number one player in the 2026 class, defensive lineman out of Louisiana, who already holds an offer and could be. He's working to reclassify to 2025. He's not said he's going to do that yet, but the work is being put in to make that happen. And he's a guy that's like 6'6", 260, 270, and is just the guy that stands out amongst the crowd of standouts. So it was interesting to get a look at him. Tavian St. Clair was there again yesterday for a little bit, helping out, throwing it around. But there's a 2027 quarterback, Brady Edmonds, who was offered yesterday, and he's their first 2027 quarterback offer. He's from California, 6'5", 200, good looking, looks like a quarterback. And so now they're on to 2027s. They're still looking for their 2026 quarterback, and they're going to have a bunch on campus over the next couple of weeks of those as well at camp. So just all kinds of stuff going on. Carlos Loughlin out there coaching them all up, the running backs. I don't know that anybody from they're pretty much, they've got their targets down in terms of running back. So I don't know that necessarily going to see too many of them camping per se, but their coaches, they're running around like crazy this time of year.
I think I know what Steve's going to say to answer this question, but besides going after the best players, the best talent, and then getting a feel for the fit for that particular athlete, of course, it's all humming on all cylinders. The recruiting's been great. It's always been great for a long, long time. But is there a direction that this class needs to go in regards to, bringing in 4 of the top 12 receivers in the country would be great once again. But in terms of, do we need to pinpoint what is going to make this next class, the 2025 class, a success?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I think obviously they recruit the heck out of the skill positions with the quarterback, the wide receivers, and the running backs that they typically land. And I know we're going to talk a little bit here in a moment about Bo Jackson, the guy they just got out of Cleveland Villa Angela St. Joseph's in the 2025 class. They just recruit the heck out of these skill positions, but football games are won up front. And let's never mistake that the bigger, stronger team, faster, stronger, bigger team is going to win 9 times out of 10. And that's usually been Ohio State. It hasn't been in some instances recently, particularly with the offensive line. So I think any 4 or 5-star offensive lineman, any 4 or 5-star defensive lineman that you can add would be great. When you look at the 5 starters on offensive line and 4 starters on defensive line, you may only have 2 of those 9 back on the team in 2025. So you really need to replenish your depth, I think, at both those positions. But more importantly, you need to replenish your quality at those positions, and all potential future all Big Ten players and all Americans at those positions. And that's what the litmus test to me is with this class. They have running backs and wide receivers and quarterbacks. Although running back depth is a little bit shy right now because Dallin Hayden left, and that may be one reason why Bo Jackson was so quick, to commit to Ohio State, is that it's wide open for 2025. I mean, legitimately could come in and start next year. To be very honest, I mean, unless something happens, he's going to be right in the mix, kind of like J.K. Dobbins was, and Travion Henderson, same thing, to start right away. So to me, I look at it that they definitely need help on the offensive and defensive lines, and quality help. And that to me is where they really need to do some heavy lifting between now and December, is what it would seem to me.
Tony, based on what you've seen thus far, is there hope in that direction, or whatever else you wanted to chime in with there?
Well, I agree. They're kind of thin right now on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Carter Lowe's the only offensive line commit, and as it was mentioned in the chat, you had they lost a line, didn't lose a lineman. Nolan Davenport from Massillon, a tackle, 3-star tackle, committed to Wisconsin this weekend. Doesn't have an Ohio State offer, but was like the number 2 guy in state on the offensive line. And I think they also had at camp this week, they had Jermeel Atkins from Trotwood, who's a like top 1,000 guy, but is like 6'8", 290, and they wanted to get a look at. But they need to start closing on this offensive line, and they're always in on some of the nation's top, but they can't. It's really been difficult for them to close on the offensive line. So Justin Fry's got to get some guys going, and defensive line. What do they have? 2 guys committed right now on the defensive line, and Zahir Mathis and London Merritt. They need more than that, and Jakeem Stewart could eventually perhaps be one of those guys. Like I said, he's a 2026, and he's from Louisiana. So he's got a lot, it's going to be really tough to get him out of the South, but he keeps coming up to Ohio State for a reason on his own dime. And so that's going to be one to watch. But yeah, you get you went up front. I still think I'm wondering about this receiver class this year. They've got one guy committed in Z Jones, but I don't know how well they're going to do landing, trying to get all of their other guys. I know they're in on a bunch of the top guys, as they always are. And DeCorian Moore had a fantastic visit, and it's the top of their visits, and everything's going to be compared to that. But there are other visits coming, and I think the Texas visit is like this weekend, and people have viewed this as an Ohio State-Texas battle. And as I've said, if they're even right now before the Texas visit, that's not a great thing for Ohio State in that position, but certainly a guy that they would love to have. Bo Jackson, we can move on to him if you guys want. And this is a guy that Ryan Day has targeted. This has been kind of his personal, let's go get this guy, running back. He camped last year at Ohio State. He's always been one of the top guys wherever. He's big, he's fast. There was some current concern about Georgia getting in there after that official visit, but Carlos Loughlin did a good job, and Ryan Day did a fantastic job in not letting him leave the state, because they've got this wide net that Carlos Loughlin has put out there after coming in, and there are only a handful of guys offered. He came in and double or tripled that number of offers as they're looking for guys who are good enough to be Buckeyes, and they're convinced there are more guys out there than Tony Alford was going after. And so you cast a wider net, and that way you're kind of not left holding the bag when your 6 targets all go elsewhere. And getting Bo Jackson in right now is huge, because now they can begin to focus on the second guy and perhaps a 3 guy as they try to make this a 3 running back class if possible, because they want 5 scholarship running backs on the roster. And after this year, they're probably going to have 2. So if you want to get to 5, it's going to take 3 in this class or 2 in the class and a guy out of the portal. And I honestly think a guy out of the portal is going to look at this class or look at the running back room at Ohio State and see an opportunity to start from day one. So it'll be interesting to see how they proceed.
I'll throw in my 2 cents as my next bugging me on Bo Jackson. Again, Cleveland St. Joe's, and we saw him at maybe an Under Armour camp the year before, and he's like straight out of central casting when you talk about a running back prospect. I mean, he is built, chiseled, looks phenomenal in that 6', 210 range. 24/7 Sports has him number 85 overall in the country and number 3 running back, number 5 overall in Ohio. for 2025. Had offers from over 20 schools: Alabama, Auburn, all the Big Ten, Ohio State, Florida. So many top schools that he was looking at. And I just think, as we kind of related it, I mean, you look at the running back situation, Travion Henderson will be gone after the upcoming season. There's a very good chance Quinshon Judkins will be gone and going to the NFL after the upcoming season. And then that just leaves the two freshmen that came in this past year, Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon, among scholarship players, due back for 2025. So the opportunity is there for Bo Jackson. He is, one of the best really offensive skill players, in the Midwest. And as we said, he can get the ball in the open field with his cutting and his vision and everything else, and kind of weave his way through traffic. And then, he finds that pocket and he can hit it. So that's what's been impressive to me. He had over 1,700 yards rushing, averaged over 10 yards a carry. I mean, why would you do anything other than hand this guy the ball when he's going to get you over 10 yards a carry, 30 touchdowns this past year as a junior? And I just think it's the little things I think that he's got to continue to work and build on to be a running back at the next level, maybe blocking and all these other things that kind of go with just being an outstanding ball carrier. So to me, I think he's coming to Ohio State at the right time and fits a definite need, in this class. Getting back on the topic of recruiting overall, these 3 or 4 weeks right here with official visits and the summer camps are probably more geared for the 2026 and 2027 players to get them their first entree in front of the coaching staff and to get them offered. What these next 3 or 4 weeks, though, really are about for 2025 is getting top prospects on campus for official visits. And they're going to have like 25 or 30 players over this 4-week period on campus for visits. And this is a crazy stat. Nearly 15 of these players are national top 100 players out of this stretch of visits. And so they have targeted the best players in the country. They have scheduled official visits with them. We'll see if they get them on campus. This weekend, a cornerback, Fahim Delane out of Maryland, is coming in. Quincy Porter, wide receiver from New Jersey. They're both in the top 100, and they're coming on campus. I know also a defensive end, Damian Shanklin from Indiana. He's number 48. He'll be coming in. Jackson Lloyd, an offensive lineman from California. He's just outside the top 100. Tony referenced DeCorian Moore, him being on campus here this past weekend, and he's the number 5 player overall in the country from Texas, and he's coming in. And then in the weeks to come, so many more top players. I mean, you look at the weekend of June 14th, they'll have Josh Petty, a big-time offensive lineman from Georgia. He's number 13 overall. Linebacker Nathaniel Owusa Boateng from IMG Academy in Florida. He's coming in the 14th. He's number 70 prospect overall. Midweek visit with a USC commitment. Defensive end Isaiah Gibson, number 17 overall, June 18th. He's coming in. And then finally wrapping it up, the weekend of June 21st, they're going to have a lot of their commitments on campus with Devin Sanchez, Naheem Offord, who did take a visit, I guess, recently to Auburn, and, of course, Tavian St. Clair, the quarterback that Tony referenced from Bell Fountain. He'll be at the Elite 11 coming up maybe in the next week or so. So those guys will be on campus, and they're going to be there to try and land the commitment from North Carolina offensive tackle David Sanders Jr., the number 3 overall player in the country, coming from Charlotte. They have commitments from number 2, Tavian St. Clair, number 4, Devin Sanchez, number 6, Naheem Offord. And as I mentioned a moment ago, they're trying to get, as I just said, David Sanders, who's number 3. And this weekend, I had him here. What did I do with him? another top 10 guy. Oh, well, St. Clair's number 2. I had one more top 10 guy on this list, and I can't find him. So they're looking at 5 of the top 10 visiting in the course of this month. So, they're going after the very best of the very best, is what it looks like to me.
The Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use our links. Same shopping experience, doesn't cost you a penny. Appreciate everyone being here. Leave those comments and questions. We will get to those. Any super chat contributions are much appreciated. We will pass on your recruiting and other questions to Tony, Steve, and if I would like to chime in myself.